I can't go that way now. No. Hi everybody, so we're here at St Peter's Square in Manchester. We're doing a Melanie Shaw demo. You're going to have to help me out in a minute because I can't turn it back around. Right. Right, so we're in Manchester in St Peter's Square doing a free Melanie Shaw demo. We've got Jimmy the Hat and we've got a lady that's come all the way up to explain about Melanie Shaw. So we're going to get over there and have a listen to what she's got to say. Let's see what she says about Melanie.
In a minute, yeah. Don't worry about it. I brought my, I got John, on the touches.
Don't Pete! Them people are from London, yeah.
They're not here yet, I've noticed that, I'll see you. I'm on Tommy Robinson News Channel, one of the Tommy Robinson News Channels at the minute, that's
Right. Excellent.
Oh. Thank you.
It's a whistle and a badge, mate.
Thank you,
One for your dog's coat.
Oh, this is my other half sack, by the way.
Oh, no, I bet. Was it Manchester?
More than likely.
Veterans?
Yeah, that's one.
Jayne, you outside. Remember? You. It's so funny. On me. Dog's coat. No, I know. See the little girl up with her?
Yeah.
She comes to all our yellow, she comes to everything. Honestly, she's mint. When we were walking up the door, there was a big wagon and it said BBC on it. So we said to her, oh look, BBC, and she's like, shame on you in the street. Yeah, pal.
Go on, I'll let you go.
Melanie Shaw pack, gift pack.
Yeah, how you doing? Not too bad. This is who I wanted to introduce you to. This is Tom. This is the other half that. And Gimbo's over there.
You won't get a word in
One of them days. I think everyone's having days like that. Like
They'll drag you out in rain.
I can't get on me, Facebook Live.
Oh, no, I'm on YouTube live on with Chris Stark Network.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not mine this time.
Yeah, we're for a coffee meet.
No worries.
Okay. Live stream, okay.
YouTube live at the minute. Which live are you trying to go on? Which one are you trying to go on? Like Facebook or YouTube?
What are you on?
Are you trying to get on live or?
Yeah.
Which one are you trying to get on?
Facebook.
Facebook. If you go onto your Facebook.
Please take a moment about Melanie Shaw. Satanic sexual abuse. You can't do anyone.
Has my data got you?
Yeah, you rather need the data. So you go on to your chat there, and then it says go live. So you just click on that, and then it'll give you like it'll ask you if you know you want to go live.
About Melanie Shaw.
Yeah, so you can start your live on there.
Satanic sexual abuse in children's homes. She's paying a very big price. Please take a leaflet. Laura Thomas has come a long way to give a talk. She has forgotten more than anyone. You will hear the truth now. Melanie Shaw is a political prisoner.
I got back on me back in
It's slow assassination. I know it sounds far-fetched, but it's the truth, the old truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a leaflet on Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower on sexual abuse in children's homes.
How you doing? Not too bad. Better.
Oh, right.
How have you been? You alright?
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah, you.
Not
Please take a leaflet on Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower
Streaming that.
on sexual abuse.
YouTube on one of Tom Robinson's news channels. Chris Talk.
Without her, we would not know these things were happening.
Jayne the paedophiles, release Melanie.
Just throw it in the bag there, or in that bag, or in any of it. It's just, I know where it is, it's all good.
Please take a badge and a whistle. If you can drop any short, small change in, thank you. It's to buy more badges and more leaflets. We don't need to open any GoFundMe. We've got all the banners we need, all paid for by supporters of Melanie Shaw. Justice for Melanie, justice for Melanie. Justice for Melanie, justice for Melanie. That's what we want, justice for Melanie Shaw, our whistleblower. She deserves our support. Please support Melanie Shaw. She's in Rampton, high security, so-called hospital. They're killing her, they're drugging her. They brought her to court on the 7th of August. On the 5th of August, she was passed fit for trial. On the 7th of August, she came in drugged up and in a right mess. Melanie Shaw needs our support. Without Melanie Shaw, we would not know what's going on in children's homes. Please take a leaflet. Read it at home. Read it on the bus. Just take one, please. Melanie Shaw is a whistleblower.
Right, we're in Manchester, guys. We're at St. Peter's Square.
I'm a whistleblower. But I am a nutcase. Melanie Shaw is a real whistleblower. Telling everybody about sexual abuse in children's homes. And she's paying a big price for it. They've locked her up. They took a child into care. She's done this to help us, to help people with children. This Shaw is a whistleblower.
I don't want to screw on it.
Please support Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower on what's going on in children's homes. And she's paying a big price for it. It's slow assassination what they're doing to Melanie Shaw. It's unreal. They've got her on a Section 41. Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, knows about this stuff.
We've been talking to him nicely. And I've explained what they're doing to him, what they're doing to Melanie Shaw.
Free Melanie Shaw! 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 Justice for 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 Melanie Shaw! That's what we're here for! The justice for Melanie Shaw! A whistleblower! And what's happening in the children's homes! Without people like Melanie Shaw, we would never know about it. People like Sir Cyril Smith MP, deceased, will be getting away with it. Everybody thought I was a lunatic talking about Cyril Smith. Ask Lord Steele, he's admitted he's known for over 40 years. Arrest Lord Steele!
I'm already on.
She needs it on her camera, she's having it done by a pro.
I can hold two.
Can you?
Man comes back with his coffee break. I will be ready to start
I can hold two.
talking about Melanie Shaw. Calling John,
Yeah, I can hold two.
gone for a
It's fine.
coffee break when he should
Can you
be
do mine when
filming
I'm not
Melanie
Oh,
Shaw.
yeah, on your camera, yeah.
Calling John,
I've got
who's
these
gone
things.
very
I don't know
he's
how
walking towards me
Tom,
now.
Pete, where
That's not a
are
problem.
you?
Anything I can do to help.
She said she'll do it.
Didn't even hurt.
Did you?
Alright, he's gonna.
Alright.
It's on a camcording, love.
To the
Can I have a drink of
camcording.
water, can I have a
Yeah.
drink of water, Ben?
All right, I'll do that.
I'm gonna have to start.
Yeah, yeah. He needs you filming, so. Well, she said she'll do it if he's not here. She said she'll do it. Oh, he's here, imagine.
Jimmy.
She's going to do two. We've got Benny who's got the transcripts to the case. I just need to find her side.
Right. Guys, if you can do me a favour and subscribe to my channel as well so I can get some lives going on there as well, it'd be absolutely amazing. Just type in my name and you'll find me on there.
She's going to get it filmed, done by a professional person, and put it onto the internet, so more people can find out about Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower. Lorna Thomas has come a long way, all the way from Cornwall, to give this talk. Lorna Thomas has forgotten more about Melanie Shaw than I've ever known. She knows what she's talking about. She's come all the way from Cornwall to give a talk. We also have an elected councillor here who supports Melanie Shaw, a whistleblower on sexual abuse in children's homes.
You're not coming to St. Peter's Square.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on a very cool morning to St. Peter's Square in Manchester and our awareness day for political prisoner Melanie Shaw. I want to give you a rough-potted life story of Melanie's life. Melanie has always felt that she was a Nottingham girl because she loves Nottingham. But Melanie was born in 1970 in Derby. Melanie was adopted at a very young age, and I'm sorry to tell you that she was sexually abused. She was then put with foster carers who sexually abused her again. She had a very rough, difficult childhood. At 15 years of age, Melanie was said to be quite a difficult person to handle, and one can understand why. Melanie was then put at 15 into the Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham. And it was there that Melanie has never ever changed her story, that not only was she sexually abused, but she witnessed the sexual abuse and the torture of many children there, and also the murder of a child or children. And Melanie Shaw has always insisted that she can take you to the grounds and show you where that child or children were actually buried. And it's very interesting that eventually Beechwood House was closed down and it was immediately bought by someone on Nottingham Council. They immediately purchased the building and the extensive grounds, and very quickly they had the whole lot fenced off with very high fencing, and it is thought it was done to stop people getting into the grounds and trying to dig up bodies that were alleged to be there. There is something else I want to say about my talks. Melanie's had a rough life. And I promise you, in any talk about Melanie, I will never swear and I will never blaspheme, but on the other hand, I am not doing Melanie Shaw or you any favours if I sugarcoat what happened to Melanie. I'm here to tell you the truth and to give you the details, which are sometimes very unpleasant. Now, Melanie finally left Beechwood in 1986. She was 16 years of age. She'd had no upbringing to speak of and not a fabulous education. She had no support whatsoever from social services in Nottingham or anyone. And it is not surprising that Melanie fell very quickly with nowhere to live and no money. Melanie fell into a life of drugs and prostitution. I'm sorry, but she did. After a while, Melanie met a much older man with money. He was comfortably off. His name was Derek. He was a good bit older than her, and he took care of Melanie very well. They were together for 13 years, and they had a son. And that son now is about 20 years of age. I'm not going to identify him, but that is what happened.
You alright, Laura?
Yeah.
Come on, take your time. You alright?
Yeah.
You're doing really well.
You've got this.
Melanie Shaw didn't need to work when she was with Derek because he gave her a good life, but Melanie did do voluntary work, and it's very interesting that for a while she was the volunteer researcher to the Nottingham MP, Chris Leslie. There are photographs of them in a work-type capacity that you can see online, and I'm afraid Chris Leslie often says, oh yes, he supports Melanie, but the moment that Melanie was put into prison, he lost all interest, and he's never been near her since. After a while, Derek, being a good bit older, Derek suddenly died one day. They weren't married, and Melanie was suddenly left to bring up her son on her own, and her son would have been about 11 years of age at the time. After a while, Melanie felt that the time had come to blow the whistle on what she saw and experienced at Beechwood Children's Home. And she set about walking the streets with a megaphone, not unlike ours today. She literally walked the streets telling people about what she'd been through and what other people had been through at Beechwood. And that is a video that you will find on UK Column. If you look for it, there is plenty there for Melanie, about Melanie Shaw on UK Column. Now, eventually, the police got to hear about Melanie whistleblowing, and the Nottingham police were forced or pressurised to start an investigation. And they called that investigation Operation Daybreak. It dragged on for 4 years, and frankly, I think it should have been called Operation Farce or Operation Dog's Breakfast, because that's exactly what it was. While the investigation was going on, Melanie caught the police out with many lies and many mistakes. And I think I can give you all a bit of a giggle, and I'm afraid make the most of it, because it is the only giggle there is in Melanie Shaw's life. At one stage, Melanie was told that someone had just made a police witness statement for Operation Daybreak. And Melanie thought, hang on, just a minute, I think that person is dead, and they died a couple of years ago. And Melanie, being the very determined type that she is, Melanie actually went on a tour of graveyards and cemeteries, and Melanie actually found the grave with the gravestone of the person who the week previously was supposed to have made that police witness statement. So therefore, Melanie was able to show the police up, the Nottingham police up, for exactly what they were, which was cheats and liars and frauds. That is what Nottingham police are all about. They're about lying. Now, I'm afraid everything we do, there's a comeback. Every cause has an effect. And Melanie, showing the police up as fools and liars, the comeback was that they paid Melanie back with a couple of years of constant harassment. They felt that they had to let Melanie know who was the boss, them, not Melanie. And they used to follow Melanie, trawl alongside her in cars when she was walking in the street. They once raided her house for absolutely no reason except to upset her, and they also used to ring her any time of the day and night for absolutely no reason, again, just to upset her. They also, the biggest, most damning thing they ever did to Melanie was they took her son from her. And I have never ever been able to find online, on social media, or anything that anyone has sent me, anything about Melanie neglecting her son so that social services would have a good reason to take her son from her. It is widely believed that the child was taken from her simply to upset her. Can I take this now?
Please share. It's about Melanie Shaw and let us know in
Now, the next thing that happened to Melanie was that she was very suddenly arrested and put straight into what I can only describe as the hellhole that they call Sodexo Private Prison in Peterborough. Melanie was taken straight to Peterborough, and she was charged with having set fire to a prison, she was charged with having set fire to a garden shed in the middle of the night, and this fire was supposed to be so terrible that the life of an entire family were put in jeopardy. Well, I have to tell you that that arson and that shed fire was an absolute stitch-up. She was also charged with reckless damage, which was throwing paint at the side of somebody's house. Now let me get rid of this pot of paint first. Melanie's fingerprints were found on the pot of paint. So therefore, that was good enough for the jury to decide that she was guilty on the paint pot charge. What they took no notice of was the fact that there were 9 other sets of fingerprints on that tin of paint. But why would you want to blame 9 other people when you can blame Melanie Shaw? The name of the game was to discredit Melanie and completely rubbish her name and her character. Now then, I want to tell you a little bit about UK Column, who are a news programme. They've interviewed Melanie and they've put reams of information about her, so it would be a good idea if everyone looked that up on UK Column. Now, Mr. Brian Gerrish, who runs UK Column, he went to the arson case and he rang Nottingham Fire Brigade and asked the details of the call-out to this fire. There was bound to have been a call-out because the fire was said to be so bad that the lives of a whole family were put at risk. And Brian Gerrish, who runs UK Column, was told that Nottingham Fire Brigade had absolutely no record at all of any call out to a shed fire at that address on that date. So what you can take from that is that if a fire was started, it wasn't much of a fire. And I am rather cross that one man online said that he was in the area, he woke up at night, heard a noise, he said he looked out of his bedroom window and saw the shed ablaze, and he said to his wife, quickly, ring the fire brigade. Well, it's very strange that the fire brigade have no record of that call-out. The judge, Judge Michael Pert, I think that he could see that there were holes left, right and centre in this case. It just didn't add up. But the jury brought in a unanimous verdict of guilty. And Judge Michael Pert could have sent Melanie to prison for arson because arson is chargeable, it is a prison offence. But he didn't send Melanie to prison because he said he felt that she was mentally ill, and he gave her a 3-year community order, and I'm going to leave it there and have a drink of water.
Visitors from London, the Melanie Shaw.
So Melanie didn't have to go to prison. She was free for 3 years provided she behaved herself. Well, Melanie had had a very difficult life. Nothing ever went easy for Melanie, and I'm afraid she did reach the community order. She went through a red traffic light. She was found at one stage not to have any tax on her car. And there was another strange incident that no one has ever really got to the bottom of, where Melanie was ill and had to call for an ambulance or a paramedic. The paramedic turned up.
I've been there telling him about you for ages. I've been trying to catch up with you. I've got cake with me as well.
And it was
Brought
rather
one
a
big cake with me as well.
silly thing to
Got it in the
do.
car, so I'll bring it over in a bit.
Melanie became very upset and she got the paramedic in her house and refused to let him go. I mean, he did get out eventually, but they called it false imprisonment, and that's why Melanie went straight back to Sodexo prison in Nottingham. And in the next talk, I'll talk a little bit more about Sodexo. But at the moment, I want, if John please could film this, John, can you just get the camera on that, love?
Look at this. Have a look at this, what they did to her legs, please.
You got that, John?
That's what they did to Melanie.
This is what they've done to Melanie Shaw's leg in the past. Look at the state of that.
Yeah.
Can this sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have got printed posters of this disgusting, don't lose it, this disgusting leg ulcer that Melanie Shaw came by. And I have to tell you that Sodexo prison refused her all medical treatment. They refused to call in a doctor, and they refused to send her to hospital. And when she finally left Sodexo in Peterborough, she was on crutches. And the other thing I want to say is that it is thought in modern times that Manuka honey is the latest thing for boils and sores, and people actually Excuse me, I'm doing a talk for Melanie Shaw here. Would you mind just giving me 5 minutes? Thank you very much. I'm obliged. Thank you very much. If you could just tone it down a moment. Melanie was sent Manuka honey for the leg ulcers, and Peterborough prison still refused to give it to her. So Melanie finally came out of Peterborough prison, and that's where I'm going to have another drink of water.
what she did next.
Sorry, Jimmy, I'm going to have to cover this quickly just in case. Sorry, guys, we're just taking a break.
By this time, Melanie was really in dire straits. She came out of
So you go give them a leaflet, well done.
She continued to be harassed by the police. And another interesting thing, in Sodexo, she was entitled to receive housing benefit. The Sodexo staff refused to get her forms to fill in, so that eventually the place where she was living was simply taken off her and she was tipped out into the streets again. No one ever seems to have helped Melanie Shaw. Now, it's not surprising that after all this harassment, Melanie decided to get out of Nottingham and go down to Plymouth. And I think that she went down there to see her friend, an advisor, that's Brian Garrish, who runs the UK column. And there are a lot of holes in this story, but it is known that Melanie did take the train from Nottingham to Plymouth, so she must have had the money to do that. She must have had a purse on her, and she had a mobile at the time. And I think that someone saw her getting on the train bound for Plymouth, or perhaps the Plymouth connection, because in the evening that Melanie got into Plymouth, she was arrested by the Devon and Cornwall police for absolutely no reason. So it looks as though Devon and Cornwall police were tipped off, look for Melanie Shaw. She's coming on the train. It wouldn't have been too difficult to find her. And Charles Cross Police Station put her in custody that evening, and she was let out at 3 o'clock the following morning in the driving rain, no raincoat, no purse, no money, and no mobile. So what happened to the purse and the mobile that she went there with? Now, the police probably felt that she was going to see Brian Garrish, and Brian was in his office at 7 o'clock in the morning with another member of staff preparing for the 1 o'clock news. And at 7:30, the police bashed the door in and raided his office looking for Melanie Shaw. Well, of course, they wasted their time because she wasn't there. We don't know where she went and what she did after that, but as Plymouth had done a little in the way of favours, she made her way back to Nottingham. And we then turned the corner into 2016, and the very, very beginning of January 2016, Melanie was forced to attend a secret trial. This secret trial was arranged or ordered by Theresa May when she was Home Secretary. It is also known that Theresa May has destroyed many, many files concerned with child sex abuse. Melanie is only part of it. And we know that some of the details of the secret trial because Melanie contacted Brian Garrish and he gave those details out on one of his news programs. Melanie said that she was shown into a little room with no windows, and the trial was to take place by video link. And Melanie stared into a camera and she was asked questions and answered them. And when she started to talk about some famous names in Westminster and Nottingham who had interfered with her and other children, a voice said, "Melanie, you're shouting. We're cutting you off." And Melanie was then taken out of that room, and 6 months later she started her sentence. The sentence was, for the case, 2 years in prison. But because it was a secret trial, we don't know what the charges were, and we don't know what the verdict was. There was no verdict. Melanie was simply told, we're cutting you off, you're shouting. So that will tell you something about secret trials in this country. Secret trials are perfectly legal, and it seems pretty obvious to me that secret trials are brought in and made legal whenever it suits the government and when they want to do something that they don't want you to know about.
Just take a drink of water, so lots to take in.
The first prison that Melanie was sent to was New Hall Prison in Boston Hall in Derby. And that's where I caught up with Melanie and where I started writing to her. I've had 11 letters altogether, and after Boston Hall, she went into Wakefield, which was an absolutely dreadful place that I'm going to tell you about in the next talk. Then she went to Eastwood Park, and then finally to the hellhole that I call HMP Style in Wilmslow, Cheshire. Now, Melanie was sentenced to 2 years, so we all knew that Melanie's release date should have been the 2nd of June last year. And some of us felt she was not going to be released. The last letter that I had from Melanie was dated the 10th of May last year. And I've never had another letter from her. Very distressing, but there it is. Now, 4 days after Melanie wrote to me, she was forced again to attend what I can only describe as a series of bogus, cooked-up Leeds Crown Court cases. She was accused of setting fire to her cell a few times in Boston Hall, and on the one occasion she admitted, yes, she had done it. Melanie vaped when she was allowed to. She didn't smoke tobacco, she vaped. And that involves cigarettes or a lighter. Now, I'm very angry that Melanie was given access to matches and a lighter anywhere after the Nottingham Crown Court arson trial she went to, where she was found guilty. What on earth were the Boston Hall staff doing, giving her access to matches and a lighter? And it seems that they were almost making it easy for her to start a fire, simply so that her name could once more be discredited. I can't really blame any of the staff involved, because I feel that they would have been given orders from higher up. Melanie eventually, where am I? Oh yes, these cooked up court cases that Melanie was meant to attend. A few times I rang Leeds Crown Court and I was told she's turning up today, and sometimes I was told no, she won't be turning up. Now the important thing is this: there was also charges of sexual assault, that she had sexually assaulted staff at Style. But later those charges were dropped, so it's very odd that they were got up in the first place. The important date you want to remember, the important week, is in the 2nd to the 7th of August last year. There's another Shaw involved in this, and that was Professor Jennifer Shaw. Professor Jennifer Shaw was asked to assess Melanie as to her suitability to attend court physically and mentally. And on the 2nd of August, Melanie Shaw was considered fit mentally and physically to attend court on the 7th. But I'm afraid on the 7th, it was a different story. Melanie was brought into court. People were shocked, rigid at the state of her. Her arm and hand were heavily bandaged, and Melanie seemed to be incoherent, rambling and deranged. What I want to know is what happened to Melanie in the 5 days between being declared fit and healthy and on the 7th turning up a deranged, incoherent mental wreck and bandaged. And I've always said that Style Prison have a lot of answering to do. The judge at the time, I think that was Judge Michael Phillips, said there was no point in going on with the case because Melanie didn't seem to know where she was and why she was there. And he abandoned the case and he sent her back to Style for mental assessments. So things dragged on. Style really played a very dirty trick on Melanie and on me. The year before, in 17, Melanie wrote to me and said that she was cold in her cell and please would I send her a warm jumper for Christmas. This I did, and all I can say is thank God for the Royal Mail Tracking Service. It's a wonderful thing and it'll save your bacon every time. By the February, Melanie still hadn't written to thank me for the jumper. She never acknowledged it. So I wrote to her and said, well, I did send you a jumper. I took the matter up with Style, and would you believe Style Prison actually wrote to me and said, we never received the jumper. We never received her Christmas parcel. So they were then given the name of the HMP Style officer called Ashton, who signed for the parcel at 10 to 10 the day after I posted it. So like the Nottingham police, they were left looking rather silly. Eventually they said that they had located the jumper and they weren't going to give it to Melanie because Melanie had the required number of outfits. It does rather make Melanie sound as though she's a model or some sort of a debutante. They were going to keep the jumper and it would be given to Melanie on her release. After that, we realised that there was going to have to be a sentencing trial for all these silly, cooked up, bogus court cases, and the important date I want to give you is the 2nd of April this year. That was Melanie's sentencing trial. I rang Leeds and they said no, she was excused being attended due to ill health. So that means that she was probably mentally wrecked and in no fit state to come to court. What's behind all this is that we believe that in the 5 days between being declared mentally fit and being seen deranged, we believe that Melanie was forcibly drugged to give the impression of mental illness. That would then make it easy for a psychiatrist or psychiatrists to section her. There was method behind all this madness. The government always intended that they were going to silence Melanie Shaw forever. And one of the judges, that was Judge Penelope Belcher, did say at one of these court cases she'd heard that Melanie was going to be sectioned at some time. And we, the general public, were never ever allowed to know the actual date that Melanie was transferred from Style to Rampton, but that happened behind our backs. So I'll end now by saying that with regard to the 2nd of April sentencing trial, Ben here has managed to obtain at high cost a transcript of the court case. And he's going to tell you all about Melanie's bent barrister. You wouldn't think that barristers would be bent, but this one was. His name was Mohammed Rafi, and he was bribed to do a deliberately bad job of defending Melanie, and some people even say he did a better job for the prosecution than he did for the defence. Melanie is now definitely in Rampton.
Can you record me on that?
Yeah, on live.
Talk outside Rampton.
You need to put it on your live one for them.
I don't know how to do it.
You going on Facebook?
Yeah.
Go onto your Facebook and I'll sort it out for you.
I took him to task over the fact that Melanie wasn't writing out, and we believed that she was being prevented from writing out. And oddly enough,
yeah.
on the
I got it for you.
9th of
You
May,
do the rest.
8 days
live,
later, Melanie wrote out the
Thank you.
first letter she
got
had
the
written
charger
out
if you
in
need it.
exactly 12 months.
What are you on now at the
And
minute?
it's because it
You're
was
all right for now.
exactly
You want me to-
12 months
You're on for now,
later, after my letter on the 10th of May 18, and Melanie
you
writes
grab my
out on the 9th of May 19. That is a hell of a coincidence. So it's felt that Melanie was told to do it because the chief executive had been given a public rap over the knuckles. Right, I'm going to finish now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say thanks very much for listening, and you've got a treat in store. We're having a break for about 10 minutes, and then listen carefully to what Ben has to say about the court transcript, because it's going to be a real eye-opener. We are privileged to know about this court transcript. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much, Laura. Laura's come all the way from... Laura Thomas has come all the way from Cornwall to talk today.
Oh yeah, can I just put the strong then to give me a
Just give me 10 minutes and Benny Dick has got the transcripts and he's going to tell us all about it. Laura travelled all the way from Cornwall just to give this talk. And there's people here today from all over the country. And I, and all supporters of Melanie Shaw, would like to thank them. And please take a badge and a whistle from the bag, please. Justice for Melanie, justice for Melanie, justice for Melanie, justice for Melanie. That's why we're here. We're here for justice for Melanie Shaw, a political prisoner held in Rampton and security, so-called hospital. What do we want?